Dr. Andrew Huberman, professor and neurobiologist out of the University of Stanford, has came out with a fitness protocol. Myself, as a personal trainer and online coach, is going to test it out. He's a pretty big lad, to be fair to him, so I reckon we should be half decent. Right, let's get on with it. Right, what day am I on? Day 5. Mr. Marcus McCready is in the background. We're at the track. I don't know if it's windy, so I don't know if you can hear. At the track, we've got 40 minutes worth of kind of higher intensity training, but we're just going to do a high rock style workout. Do a little bit of a 1K warm up. Then we've got pretty much a 40-minute AMRAP or 4 rounds of running, some burpees, some walking lunges, some farmers carries, and maybe some thrusters to replace wall balls. But yeah, just going to crack on with it, get the heart rate going. I forgot to bring my heart rate monitor as well, but never mind. But aye, 40 minutes work. Let's get it. There you go. Oh, safe to say I need to do some more running work. We both need new knees. Absolutely dying, but 40 minutes? Yeah, bang on 40. We ended up doing, I'll stick the workout on screen because I can't speak, but it was like, the target's to get 2 rounds, so we're going to work on that, but stay tuned for that one. But I'm going to go home, got clients in, and then I need to find my knees as well. I know, bloody hell. Now I've got high intensity work tomorrow, super high intervals, get my heart rate to close to 200 beats per minute, but that's the plan anyway. I'm gonna vomit. Right, catch us tomorrow for vomiting. Yes people, welcome back for day 6, I think we're on. Day 6, it's a Saturday for me. I know it's normally a Friday for Mr. Huberman, but we are in for the high intensity, the super high intensity, pushing that maximal heart rate day. That's what we're going to be doing. So I think we're going to be finishing with a little bit of assault bike work and trying to get that heart rate up to around 200 beats per minute if we can. But as you couldn't see me there. But yeah, simple rule of thumb for your maximum heart rate is going to be roughly your age minus or taken away from 225, I think, or 220, maybe 220. But I'm 25, so we're aiming for around that 195, 200 mark. But we're going to do 8 to 12 rounds of 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off. I think we're going to do assault bike and ski, or maybe just assault bike. We'll see how we get on. But seeing the session will probably only last about 8 to 10 minutes, if that. We're going to do a little bit of rehab, prehab stuff. I'm also going to get my calf raises in today, which I would normally do tomorrow, on the kind of arm dominant session. A little bit of rehab stuff for my knee, some adductor stuff from my previous injuries that I've had. So I'm just using this session as kind of like an additional leg session, but more prehab stuff. So it's not going to really affect it when I come to my high intensity stuff. We're also going to be slightly touch on the legs within the high intensity stuff, so getting that a little bit of leg stimulus is almost like a second leg session as well. But I'm going to have to film today on the camera because my gym doesn't let you film. I can't take my actual camera in, so it's going to be the mobile phone. So apologies for the BTEC iPhone footage for today's session, but I'll walk you through it and hopefully I am not sick. Luckily tonight we're going to fuel up and get some good food in us, so either way, even if I don't eat all day, I'm going to eat a good meal tonight. And we might get a little sauna in afterwards as well for a little bit of additional recovery. But anyway, I'm glad we're on. Let's get on with today's session. Right, so to start today's kind of rehabby leg focus session, we did a little bit of foam rolling, especially down my IT band / my vastus latialis, kind of like the side quad muscle, just because I've been getting a little bit of quad tendonitis just above the top of my kneecap, and I always find if I release that kind of fascia around there that it alleviates a little bit of knee pain. So we did a little bit of that each side, a little bit of hamstring rolling, just because the legs were a tiny bit sore from yesterday's running high rock sort of 40-minute workout. Then we did some ankle distraction, ankle mobility, really working on that dorsiflexion. If you have poor ankle mobility, one, it's going to affect your squat depth, not giving you that ability to drive your knees over your toes, but also you might find that you get quite a bit of knee pain. So because I've had a surgery on my right ankle, I've got a little bit of a blocker, kind of a little bit of restricted range of motion in my right ankle, which is why my right knee flares up, so we stretched that off. Then we moved on to the actual strength section. So we did single leg calf raises, 3 sets of about 12 reps each side. You can see I'm using a little 8 kilogram kettlebell here. Don't have to go heavy, holding the weight on the working side leg, or hand, I should say. Just to kind of push that weight slightly on the outside of the foot, which is going to help get that full contraction of the calf. You can see I'm pausing at the bottom, controlling up to the top and squeezing at the top again. So we're limiting our patella, so not a patella, our Achilles tendon from taking over. If we start bouncing up and down, which you might see a lot of people do in the gym, and you're going to be obviously working that Achilles tendon, which is kind of, our tendons are our reactive sort of tissue that kick in and when we're doing any plyometric movements. So if you slow things down, it's going to be purely the muscle. So 3 sets of that one. Then we moved on to a single leg kettlebell hip flexion. So we're really thinking about isolating hip flexors in this one. If you don't train your hip flexors, then I would probably recommend doing it, especially if you're doing a running sport, a kicking sport, and your hip flexors, especially your rectus femoris, that kind of top quad slash hip flexor muscle, and it's going to really be firing on that one. So really isolate that one. So key things on this one, we have got the kettlebell wrapped around kind of at the above the balls of the feet. This is going to also work our plantar flexors, our tibialis anterior, now I'm blank there, tib anterior, that muscle that flexes the toe up, that's going to strengthen that. But again, is going to help us with our squat depth, in terms of our ankle mobility, and also help us with our running endurance. If people kind of get that burning sensation in their tib when they're running, that's what's working, your tibialis anterior. So we're going to be working that. Also thinking about driving the knee up nice and high. You're trying to pause it above parallel, so above hip height, holding it at the top and then nice and controlled down. So really nice exercise, that one. 3 sets of 12 again, using an 8 kilogram kettlebell. Start nice and light. It's going to work your balance a little bit as well. So if you don't have a lot of balance, then maybe find something to hold onto. Then some Copenhagen planks. Isolating the adductors on this one. I've had previous adductor surgeries, so this is just going to strengthen that up. And also, if you don't already train your adductors, I recommend doing it. So we did 3 sets of 30-second holds. You can see the setup on this one. I've got the pad or the bench, and it's actually a hip thrust kind of setup on here, just below knee height. Now you can start with it above knee height, which is going to be a little bit easier and also takes a bit of pressure off the knee. So start with that progression, hold it for 30 seconds, and then if you want to progress it, slowly move the resistance or the kind of point in contact on your leg further away. So the further away the resistance down the leg, it's going to be a little bit harder. However, if you go too far down, so I find if I go all the way down to my feet or down to my ankles where the resistance is, where my point of contact is, puts a little bit too much pressure on my knee. I am like 6'5", 6'6", so I do have long legs, so there would be a little bit too much pressure on my knee and I get a little bit of kind of discomfort there. So that's kind of like the sweet spot for me, kind of 2/3 or a third away down, maybe down my tib and fib, so down that lower part of my leg. So we're going 3 to 30 seconds, a little 30-second gap in between each side. Then on to some hamstring isolation. Again, as I said in the previous leg session, I have a massive weakness in my left hamstring and a massive weakness in terms of range of motion as well. So we did some single leg lying hamstring curls, 3 sets of 12 to 8 to 12 on this one, again sticking to that rep range. Again, similar to the cable hamstring curl I did earlier in the week, thinking about a pause at the end, at the top of it, when the knee's fully flexed, trying to hold that top position for a split second, nice and controlled down, starting on that weak side and moving on to the other side. Again, the nice thing about this machine compared to doing it on the cables, it has a cam, so the resistance slightly drops off when you get into that shortened position where it's a little bit tougher to get into. So that one worked really nicely. Working on that left side was so much weaker than the right side, and just keep them hips pushed down, lock yourself in position. So we did 3 sets on that one. Then a little bit of an ab superset, which I tried out, which I've never really done before. Normally I try and isolate the abs, do some sort of core work at least once a week, which is one of the things Andrew I don't think really mentioned in his program. I like to isolate it just, again, more for aesthetic reason, but also just to make sure we're training that muscle. So we did a set of decline crunches on like a decline bench. Normally I would stick an ab mat underneath my lower back just to support the lower back and also increase the range of motion, so we have something for our lumbar spine to almost crunch over. Again, kind of working the movement that the abs, the rectus abdominis kind of work, so flexing the spine in that position. We just did 10 reps in there, then we went straight into a GHD sit-up, which is going to be a little bit more length and range work, so similar to how we work the rest of our strength work. One short and range exercise, one length and range exercise. And I've never actually done a GHD sit-up, so I don't know if I set these up perfectly, but just 3 sets of 10, really big stretch, opening up the hip flexors and the abs as well, but they weren't actually too bad. So we did 3 rounds of that, 10 and 10, just to get a little bit of core isolation work. Then we did the high intensity stuff. This is what we were obviously meant to be doing on this workout for this day. 30 seconds work, 10 seconds rest. Now this was horrible. My quads are on fire for this, so this is going to be my additional sort of leg quad volume. So we did 30 seconds work on the assault bike, 10 seconds rest, and then straight into about 30 seconds. Probably went over 30 seconds a little bit. On the sled pushes, I did 3 lengths of the gym, which I don't really know, is about 40 to 50 meters, maybe. I'm not too sure about how big the gym is in meters. But yeah, 30 seconds weight. It took me, by the time I got back up to the bike, it was about 90 seconds from when I started the assault bike. And then I gave myself 10 seconds, and then I went back into it again. So a 6 round of that, so 12 rounds in total. Obviously, Andrew said to do between, I think it's 20 and 40 seconds or 20 and 60 seconds of work, 10 seconds rest for 8 to 12 rounds. So we did the full 12 rounds. It was a bit annoying, my heart rate. Obviously, I'll put my heart rate on screen as well when I'm working. Didn't really get too high, up to 180 something, 182 or something, I think it was. And my legs kind of burnt out more than anything. So I think if I stayed on the assault bike, you can see from my heart rate, I think if I stayed on the assault bike rather than doing a sled, that my heart rate would have stayed higher, because I was finding the assault bike and I was getting my heart rate a lot more elevated. The sled, my legs were just burning out more than anything. So yeah, maybe next time just stick to some sort of machine, or maybe go assault bike ski like I said I was going to do. But yeah, that is today's workout. We're going to move on to tomorrow, the last day, which is going to be arms, a little bit of neck training, and I think that's it, because I did my calf work today. So I did my lengthened calf work today because we did the seated variation earlier in the week. But yeah, I'm going to load up. We're going to be training fasted tomorrow morning, which I'll talk about in the morning. We're going to load up on some good food tonight, so yeah, I might film a little bit of that. But we'll catch us tomorrow if I don't film anything. Yes, people, the last day, day number 7 of the Andrew Huberman Fitness Protocol ideal week of training. So we have arms. What we are going to be doing today, obviously within his program, he talks about, again, working one exercise in the shortened range, and then one in the lengthened range. Especially on the arm days, he wants us to add in dips, and he wants us to add in some sort of chin up as well. So we'll be starting a session with dips and chin ups, doing it a little bit of a superset, similar to how we did the push-pull workout earlier in the week. So making sure we're hitting at least 2 exercises per muscle group, so biceps and triceps. We're going to add an extra little superset in. So we're going to do 3 supersets today. All going to be 3 sets of 8 to 12. Training fasted this morning, which I was going to discuss. Fasted, so we have been sipping on this all morning. So this is a few things in. We've got our essential amino acids, just to help reduce muscle protein breakdown. And obviously, because we're not getting a protein hit before training, then we're going to start that muscle protein synthesis kind of system, get it firing. So we've got 15 grams in there, 5 grams of creatine, just for help with general strength and power output as well. Then we have 30 grams of highly branchiated dextrin. I talked about it earlier in the week, but again, because I'm not going to have I haven't had a meal this morning. I'm going to get some carbs in nice and early. Obviously, I had a big meal last night. I had loads of sushi, which I'll put in the background. Big feed up. So we've got plenty of glycogen stored. Anyway, your muscles can store loads of, I think it's like 300 to 400 grams of glycogen, depending on person to person, but plenty of glycogen stored away. And then we also have some beta-alanine, which I didn't talk about. I always take beta-alanine every single day that I train, because I think the research suggests that you kind of have to have it on a daily basis to get the benefits of endurance. Obviously, you get the benefits of it kind of tingling and waking you up a little bit pre-training, and so I have 4 to 5 grams every single day just to try and help my endurance and help. I think it reduces lactic acid build-up in your muscles. So the more I can get used to taking that, hopefully the better it works. We've also got a little bit of non-stim, so no caffeine today. I try and have 1 day of caffeine per week, completely nothing. So today's going to be that day. So we have a non-stim pump / cognitive function pre-workout. It's Nova Pump. I've done a video on that previously. So we have 300 milligrams of alpha GPC in this one. Again, I've got Andrew's newsletter on here. He talks about alpha GPC in terms of memory, in terms of attention, skeletal muscle contraction, and also shown to increase power for athletes. Then we've also got 500 milligrams of L-tyrosine, again, another thing that Andrew talks about in his newsletter. It's going to help with dopamine receptors, and just, yeah, it's going to help improve performance in general. So we've got that as well. But yeah, Andrew's email's out now, by the way, so I've looked at the workout and some of the things that I've done, pretty similar to what he would do anyway. So yeah, I'm blabbering again, need to get on with the session. Yeah, should be done in 60 minutes, and we've also got a little bit of neck training to do afterwards, which I'll probably do in the home gym. Right, let's get on with the session. Right, so I decided to format today's session quite quickly, so a little bit more of an efficient way to train if you're short on time, or maybe you haven't slept well like myself, so last night didn't really sleep too well. So I decided to do it in this format. So we did a 9-minute EMOM to start. So EMOM stands for every minute on the minute. Each minute we're going to do a set exercise for a set amount of reps. So you can see here we started off with the dips, working 3 sets of 8 to 12, still working in that rep range that we're focusing on in this current block. But we've got a minute to complete our set of 8 to 12. Probably take us about 30 seconds. Key things on this one, you can see I'm really trying to push my shoulder blades back and not letting my scapula almost rise upwards. A lot of people are starting a shrugged shoulder position. I'm trying to keep my scapula depressed if I can. Obviously it's quite hard to do that in this position, and I haven't done this movement for a long time. So then for our second movement was going to be chin-ups. Like I said, we're going to do a dip movement and a chin-up movement, a big compound lift for the biceps. You can see here that I'm using a ring setup. Now, if you are someone who does get elbow issues or doesn't have a lot of rotation ability within the elbows, which the majority of people actually don't, to do a chin-up on a normal straight bar, then I would recommend either using D handles of some sort or something where you can rotate your elbow joints, for example the rings. It's just going to take a little bit of stress off the elbow flexors, and obviously if you're getting some sort of elbow tendonitis or tennis elbow, then that's going to alleviate a little bit of that pain, just again give that elbow a little bit more freedom. And also one of the functions of the bicep is also to rotate our elbow joint and help with that sort of rotation movement. So starting in a neutral position, and as we pull up to the top, rotating almost our pinky inwards to get a little bit of elbow rotation, as well as obviously elbow flexion, working the biceps. So again, 3 sets of 8 to 12. This is going to be minute number 2. So minute number 1 was going to be dips, minute number 2 was going to be chin-ups, and then minute number 3 was going to be a rest minute. So we're almost getting 30 seconds rest in between the dips and the chin-ups, and then about a minute and a half rest in between the chin-ups, and then going back to the dips. Then we moved on to another 9-minute EMOM. So this one, another tricep compound movement for the triceps. Close grip bench press, keeping the elbows nice and tucked in on this one. A lot of people go way too close grip on a close grip bench press. You only want it to be ideally shoulder width grip, just so your elbows can actually naturally drive past your body. If you go too narrow, your elbows are going to start flexing to the side, and we're not actually isolating the triceps as optimally. So keep those elbows relatively tucked in, shoulder width apart grip, and almost think about bending the bar inwards. That'll help keep your arms tucked in. Again, minute number 1, we did 3 sets of 8 to 12, so I was doing about sets of 8 to 10, I think it worked out of with the weight that I was using on the close grip bench press. This is going to be a little bit more kind of mid-range work for the triceps, so not too short, not too stretched, so a little bit of that mid-range work. Sometimes I like to put a reverse band on this, but just for time and stuff today, I just did it normally on a normal bench press. Then we moved on to minute number 2, just some simple dumbbell bicep curls. This time keeping a supinated grip, so palms facing away, just to isolate the biceps and that sort of range of motion. We've done a little bit of a rotation exercise, so I'm normally trying to get 1 rotational bicep exercise in and 1 fixed one in per workout. So we did 3 sets of 8 to 12 on minute number 2 as well. Then rested on minute number 3 and repeated that for 9 minutes again. Now we move on to some rest pauses. Again, just time efficiency, working on 1 exercise at a time now, so no time limit on this one, just the rest pause. So a rest pause is going to be doing a set. So for example, our 8 to 12 rep range, do 1 set of 8 to 12, pretty much as close to failure as you can get, or ideally to failure. Resting 10 to 15 seconds or about 4 or 5 deep breaths, let the heart rate settle, then jump back in with the exact same weight, try and get maybe 4 or 5 more reps out. Same again, rest for 10 to 15 seconds, and then go again. So we did a 2 rest pause. So it was a set, rest, a set, rest, a set. Again, you're not going to get another set of 8 to 12 within those rest pauses. You're only going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 reps. But if you're pushing all the way to failure, it should be a pretty good workout. Reason behind this is the last few reps of your set are going to be our effective reps. They're the ones that actually kind of induce hypertrophy and actually create some sort of stimulus to grow. So if we are almost just rested and just cutting straight to them last 3 or 4 reps, then we're getting that stimulus anyway, with obviously saving time. Obviously it's not as optimal as doing straight sets, but if you're short on time, it's a good sort of way to do it. So we did the long rope overhead cable tricep extension. Reason we're using the long rope is so we can get a little bit more range of motion and pushing out to the side, so a lot more elbow flexion rather than our elbows being tucked in close. And it's also way easier to set up on this one. So just put 2 ropes on the cables, hook it round, and then obviously go into our tricep extension. This is going to be our length and range work for the triceps, getting that stretch position and then pausing at the top, getting a good contraction, thinking about that mind muscle connection again on this one, especially with it being an isolation movement. So again, 3 sets. First one was a normal set, the last 2 were a rest pause. Then we moved on to our length and range work for our biceps, which was a low cable bicep curl. Same principle on this one, 1 set of 8 to 12, rest 15 seconds, a set of 3 to 5, whatever it is, to failure. rest 15 seconds, and then go back in again with the same weight. Key points on this one for length and range bicep works: keep them shoulder blades pinned back and keep those elbows locked in position. So we're keeping them elbows pinned in rather than letting them come forward. That's going to work them a little bit more in the shortened range rather than the length and range. But a really nice exercise, this one. I really enjoy the low cable bicep curl. Yeah, and that was the session. I'm going to go home and get my neck training in. I'm going to put a video in the background of me doing my neck training in now, and then you will catch me in a few days time maybe summarizing my thoughts on this workout, maybe what's the good things, what things could be improved, and what things you might want to take in consideration, and if I'm going to keep things in the future, this style of training. But yeah, it's been a good week of training. Gonna get home, get some food in, relax, and then start it all again tomorrow. But we will catch yous in a few days time to summarize things. Right people, back in the office, we are going to summarise and recap through the Andrew Huberman training programme and get my opinion on it and see if I think it's any good, and maybe a few things that you can probably tweak to put individually within your programme. First of all, a few things that I haven't mentioned already that I have been doing that Andrew did mention in the podcast. The first one was stretching, mobility work. So mobility work, you want to be ideally adding it in at least 3 times per week, ideally 5 times per week. And the stretches that you're focusing on, maybe areas that you're really tight. For example, hip flexors. If you've got super tight hip flexors, you could be doing a couch stretch. You ideally want to be doing them 5 times per week for 3 sets of around 30 seconds. Trying to hold them at a point that's not super painful, but to the point where you can feel the stretch, you can relax into it a little bit more, and that has been shown to be more beneficial than doing longer stretches that are a little bit more painful. So yeah, I've been adding that in. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, you'll see I do mobility every single morning, 20 to 30 minutes. It's helped me massively with all the injuries that I've had, and I've done videos in the past covering mobility, my routine, which I will put up on one of these corners here. So yeah, I've been doing that pretty much every single morning, 20 to 30 minutes, and then maybe a little bit of myofascial release post-workout on certain areas that I know will be tight. For example, my calves, if I'm doing a lot of running, maybe my hamstrings or whatever it is as well. So I have been adding them in as well. The second thing was grip strength, which was something that you mentioned also in the podcast. How there's a big link between your grip strength for how long you can hang on to a pull-up bar, for how long you can hold your body weight for, and also your life expectancy and your general health. So it's interesting, the relationship between them two things. So adding in things like farmer's carries, which I'm doing as part of my high rocks training anyway. We did it on Thursdays or Friday session. So things like that, maybe obviously getting used to training without lifting straps, especially if you're early days in your training, making sure you're not utilising lifting straps all the time. Obviously it can be beneficial, but not using them all the time. Also really thinking about when you're training, really gripping tightly to the weight you're lifting is also being shown to improve strength output, so your strength. And then obviously when it comes to your recovery in between sets, make sure you're relaxing and not letting your grip go super, super tight as well. So yeah, they're the 2 things that I didn't mention. Few things that I think is missing in the program. First of all, this program is just a general program for people. If you are specifically training for an event or training for a certain sport, a certain strength event, you need to prioritize and periodize your training and maybe have an element of your training or period of your training more focused to a certain area. For example, if you're doing strength training, all your rep ranges want to be most of your rep ranges want to be in that lower rep range. You might want to train 4 or 5 days a week resistance training, and the need for the cardiovascular work is obviously going to be a little bit less. So rather than doing 3 days of cardio per week with a mixture of zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, going through different periods, you're going to want to just focus maybe on a little bit of zone 2 work just for active recovery purposes. Same thing if you're an endurance athlete, you want to run a marathon, for example, you want to be doing a lot more zone 2, zone 3 cardio work, a little bit less resistance training, maybe a little bit, but it's going to be majority focus on that. So make sure you're periodizing. This is a general program, but I do think it is a very good overall program. However, a few things that I think was missed. First one, core focus training. I don't think he mentioned that. If you did, my apologies, I must have missed that. But core focus training, maybe something if you really want to actually build some abdominal muscles, some rectus abdominis, that front ab muscle, that 6-pack muscle, some sort of crunching and flexing movement. For example, ab mat crunches, which I did I think on one of my sessions, my Saturday session, or maybe some hanging knee raises, something like that. You also want to be working some sort of rotation. I like some sort of rotation exercise. I'm a big fan of a knee and cable rotation, just to get that thoracic rotation, work a little bit more obliques and all the muscles around there. So I think they're 2 things that maybe weren't added in. And again, things like renegade rows could be good. I'm a big fan of side planks as well. So any sort of core specific work, especially for people who get a lot of back injuries and are doing big compound lifts, having a strong core is really important. So maybe a few things could have been added in there. And then the last thing, which I know you touched on, was unilateral single leg and single arm work. Many people have a lot of imbalances. Some people have one leg longer than the other. Some people have areas that are weaker than the other, and obviously that can cause injury. So adding in some single leg, some single arm work, some unilateral core work, whatever it is, to fix those imbalances is definitely important. That's why you see me do some single leg. I think I did rear foot elevated split squats this week. I always do single leg work, at least one exercise per week. So adding in some single leg work, I think could have been added in as well. However, in summary, the Andrew Huberman fitness protocol, just for general fitness and health, I think it's pretty good. Very, very solid. Obviously, we're ticking all the boxes. We're getting our zone 2 cardio in. We're getting a little bit more endurance, zone 3, 4 cardio in. Then we're getting that high intensity, zone 5, super high heart rate. So we're ticking all the boxes in terms of that with the 3 sessions across the week. In terms of the general strength work, perfect. Obviously, we talked about working in different periods, periodization of training, so maybe doing a block of 4 to 8 rep ranges for 3 or 4 sets for a certain amount of time, then changing to some higher rep stuff, some 12 to 15 rep ranges for a period of time. So that works perfectly if you have that goal of building muscle, so you're hitting all them different muscle fibers. Covers all the areas. Obviously, you've got your leg training, you've got some sort of hinging motion in there, got a squatting motion in there. The only thing I didn't put in there was a lunging motion. Again, that unilateral training, making sure we're getting some sort of single leg unilateral lunge motion or single leg work in there. Got plenty of pushing, overhead pushing, horizontal pushing, and then same vertical pulling, horizontal pulling. I like how we talked about working muscles in different ranges, short range, length and range. Again, like I mentioned before, there isn't any twisting motion in there, but there is some gait movement, there is some running, there is some sprinting, there is some cardio-based movement. So a lot of the boxes are getting ticked. Obviously the neck training as well, additional thing that I've never really done before. And if you found it beneficial, there's obviously a lot of benefits in terms of your posture for that one. But all in all the boxes are pretty much being ticked. Again, you can make programs a little bit more specific to yourself and your needs. But as a general rule of thumb, I think it's pretty solid, and I am probably going to integrate a little bit more of this kind of layout of training into my fitness regime, and definitely the saunas. Saunas is one thing that I've introduced over the last 6 months after listening to a lot of podcasts with Andrew Huberman, with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, on Joe Rogan podcast, loads of different things to do with saunas and the benefits, the health benefits, as well as the mental benefits to it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be integrating this sort of training, and I'm also going to be releasing a little bit of an online team programming for people to join in the similar way that I train, and obviously benefit physically, benefit mentally, benefit mobility, and also longevity. So that'll be coming soon as well. Like I said, the link to the podcast of Andrew Huberman's fitness protocol will be down there. Again, thank you, Andrew, for putting out the great content. Really enjoy your stuff and learning a lot, and listening to your podcast pretty much every other day at least at the minute. But anyway, if there is any other fitness protocols or different methods of training that you would like to see me try, I'm always open to try new ideas. Then let me know in the comments down below. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share the video if you can. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, the link's down below at Brendan Pearson Fitness. Podcast and all that good stuff is down below as well in the description, not the show notes, that's the podcast, in the description down below. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Over now.